Hello and welcome. We appreciate you joining us here today. We will be getting started on the top of the hour, so sit tight for just a couple minutes and we will see you soon. Hello and welcome to our Fundraising Trends Buffet. Today we'll be looking at 2022 in the review mirror and 2023 on the road ahead of us. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. Let's take a moment to meet today's speakers. My name is Madison Keltman and I will be hosting today's session. Joining us today as speakers, we have Kathy Nothnagel, the Manager of Content Marketing for the Education and Nonprofit Division of Community Brands, and Richard Council, the Marketing Campaign Manager for GiveSmart. So Kathy and Richard, thank you both so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Hey.
Hey. So some housekeeping tips as we get going. Please feel free to use the Q&A box for any questions you might have as we go, and check your chat box for resources and links we'll be sharing throughout the webinar. Our colleague Megan is helping us out on the back end, so keep the questions coming and keep checking that chat box. Also, today's call is being recorded and the recording will be shared with everyone attending. So without further ado, let's take a moment to review our agenda. So you know what to expect for the hour. We'll start with a brief poll before we dive into 2022 data in review, 2023 predictions and trends to keep an eye on. We'll briefly pause for a mid-webinar poll, then we'll dive into some additional insights and data on donor management, retention, and more. And we'll end the call with the Q&A. As we mentioned, keep the questions coming. We'll answer some live and save some for the end. Depending on what questions we get, and we want your input. So if you have additional ideas to share, lessons learned, or anything like that, send us those messages in the chat so we can incorporate your ideas and feedback throughout the call, as well as those questions. So first, let's get this poll going. I'm going to go ahead and get it started here. So we want to know more about your fundraising plans for 2023. Is your organization planning to increase fundraising initiatives in 2023? We will be chatting more about this data later on in today's session. So we're curious to see what your responses look like. And while the poll is going, I wanted to briefly discuss an upcoming webinar opportunity. Next week on Wednesday, December 14th, we will be hosting a session on donor management best practices. So register now for the session and join us for a deep dive into donor management and GiveSmart Donor CRM. We'll share a link to register in the chat. So I'll give that just a few more seconds with the poll. Zoom is being a little bit slow for us today. So if we have any technical difficulties, just hang tight and thank you for your patience as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Looks like everybody got their answers in. So Kathy, what are your thoughts on these responses? Looks like 58% said yes, more events and or fundraisers in 2023.
I think that's what we had anticipated, and based on kind of some of the survey stuff, is a foregone conclusion. So this aligns with what we had expected, and perhaps those of you who are still not sure or still making plans might hopefully find some inspiration today.
Absolutely. All righty, let's keep moving. So as some background on today's topic, in November, so last month, throughout the month, we sent the fundraising experiences and giving trends survey to GiveSmart customers and non-customers. We sent it throughout the month, and we gathered over 640 responses to the survey from organizations all around the US. So a really great response. Really great data to see. And thank you, if you're on this call and you participated, thank you so much for submitting your response to that survey. Some of the industry segments included are K-12 schools, higher education, animal welfare, health and human services, arts and culture, environment, religion, and more. So we have participants from the survey from all across the spectrum, all across the US. And basically, we were looking back on 2022 for trends and any standout data to better inform planning, decisions, and predictions for 2023 as we very quickly approach the new year. So the industry continues to change and shift following the pandemic and a fluctuating economy that we all know about. So we want to make sure that we help you start the new year off right with insights into the state of nonprofit planning across the US. So let's kick off the 2020 portion with Kathy. So what did goals look like for 2022, Kathy?
Sure. So in terms of performance to goals, it split a third, and a third, which I think surprised us a great deal. I think we predicted that a higher percentage of folks would have fallen short, but essentially splitting pretty much evenly amongst the three is interesting, and I think, to our point, perhaps a little bit encouraging. And for those who fell short, or I should say overall, whether you exceeded your goals, you met your goals, or respondents fell short of their goals, the vast majority, 85%, felt that the economy played an impact and definitely played a role in where their numbers fell for 2022. Again, with the kind of tumultuous up and downs, we perhaps expected more to fall short, but this is hopefully encouraging because it demonstrates, and a lot of what we'll be talking about today is that donors do seem eager and interested in giving, the more opportunities they have and the more creativity that's shown. And that there are still a lot of organizations, 2/3, who are having success in fulfilling kind of their promise to their missions. So we love to hear it. It was really encouraging. And I think there's hopefully a lot of takeaways today that can get your wheels turning no matter where you fell.
Yeah, absolutely. And Richard, so going off of those goals and into fundraising, what are some fundraising trends from 2022 that we gained some insight on?
Yeah, so in the survey, we asked event-specific questions like how many fundraising campaigns the responding organizations held, how many tickets they sold, and if they had to increase ticket prices in 2022. About half of those who responded held about 2 to 4 fundraising campaigns in 22, and these included events, auctions, online fundraising campaigns, giving days, and other fundraising initiatives. And then shown in the graphic to the right, you'll see that 26% held 5 to 8 campaigns, 14% held 8 or more, and 14%, or right under that 14%, held 0 to 1. And then 42% said that they sold more tickets to events in 2022, which is exactly what we all want to hear as we return to more in-person fundraisers and events. However, 66% said they did not increase ticket prices to events in 2022. And that's super duper important, especially with the economy and the way that it's been, the fluctuations here and there. Extremely volatile. The fact that you were able to keep ticket prices the same but sell more tickets is astronomical. So some thoughts here. In 2022, we overwhelmingly saw the return to in-person events, which is exciting and encouraging. And it's been a long few years of waiting, pivoting, and trying to make your missions succeed through the ups and downs of the pandemic. And it's exciting to see that we're all getting together, back together, to celebrate your missions in person again. And it's also encouraging to see that despite inflation in the state of the economy this year, event ticket prices stayed the same and more tickets were sold in 2021. So your donors are there, they're engaged, and trends show that they're ready to return to in-person events. But that doesn't mean that you should shy away from virtual or hybrid.
Yeah, and Kathy, so going off of that, I mean, really encouraging to see that the ticket prices aren't increasing. Maybe they're not increasing yet, but we'll see how that goes in 2023. And that's something to keep our eyes on. But what about donor experiences within those events and fundraisers?
Sure. And I know, as we look at ticket prices increasing, there is kind of that math of if we increase it by a certain amount, this is how many we need. Like, this is the guest count that can, go down to still kind of have the same gross amount, but also, sharing and communicating what you're going to have at the event that makes it worth that ticket price, right? And a big part of that are the revenue enhancers, the gamification opportunities, the auction items that you have that are, exclusive or, are the opportunity for the guests in the room. And so as you look back at 2022 and look ahead to 2023, you have to review your campaigns. You have to see what worked, what didn't, and what you can improve so that donors walk away with a good experience, feeling like your ticket price is a worthy investment. And so what the respondents shared is that top 3 gamification opportunities in terms of fundraising and success, raffles, which I know is a hot topic because there's many of you who raffle regulations don't allow you to do them. But raffles, wine pools, which we do have some blogs on that we may or may not be sharing, and games. So games can be a lot of different things. There's, we've had people do like carnival type games, contests, scavenger hunts leading up to an event, because of course we are talking about distinguished events like a gala or a golf outing, but there's a lot of other event types and a lot of other campaign types too that involve ticketing. So it's not reserved to that. So things like trivia, heads or tails games at events, which I've seen done at galas, and it's really fun. I've seen a paddle raise raffle. I've seen a ton. And then we've had some folks do bingo too. So I think this demonstrates that if you add in a little bit of creativity, a little bit of variety, and certainly it lends itself to your donors being excited to give. And the more opportunities you can kind of engage them in that are that way, the better off you and your mission will be. So some creative ideas that we saw from the respondents were definitely opening the silent auction early so that people, with GiveSmart, you can bid on your phone. You can bid from anywhere. Anyone can bid from anywhere who's registered. Doing team fundraising competitions or like team captain or table captain opportunities, which I think are really fun. And definitely anytime you generally introduce competition, you see results. A whiskey pull instead of wine, certainly that is good for different audiences and would be more appealing. A ring toss instead of a raffle, a pie in the face, which I've been pied before. It's not so bad. Or mystery boxes, definitely incentives to get people to buy tickets, those sorts of things. So when you look at the offerings that you have on your auction, because from my experience and certainly feedback that we've gotten from our customers, from our partners, is that what's in the room elevates the event, right? So the bidding opportunities that you have set the tone for what your event is going to be. And so when we look at things that generally people have success with, and we will put a big old asterisk on it, that your audience is going to in some ways dictate what works. So if some of this feels like a departure, maybe it's worth investigating. There are certain things that you can just cross off the list, like the raffle example, if it's just not possible or it just would not vibe with your group. But I encourage you to ask different opinions and really see, when you make a change, it can be hard, but definitely lean into kind of some top volunteers, some top guests, and say, what would you like to see more of? So to me, it comes as no surprise that experiences such as tickets, events, exclusive opportunities like chef's tables and the like go very well. Things that are drink related or alcohol related, like an instant wine cellar, things like that go over very well, or exclusive bottles that you can't buy in store. They're only available to like wine members and things like that. Themed baskets, which I think surprised our team a little bit. But it makes sense in a lot of ways. We work with a lot of wonderful K-12 schools, and I feel like that's very much bread and butter there. And then food related items. no kidding. Everyone likes food, restaurant gift cards for sure. And I think that kind of goes in tandem with, some of those kind of theme basket ideas too. Lower performing items, home decor, that doesn't totally surprise me because people have personal taste, personal care, accessories like jewelry and autographed items, which was interesting to us because our autographed items are there's a high percentage of them that we see with all of our GiveSmart customer base. But in general, people feel like maybe the return isn't there. But without question, raffles far outperformed any other gamification opportunity. So we can't really stress enough, there are a lot of different raffle ways to do a raffle. So if a raffle is available to you, you don't have to do it the way you've always done. And I think we might be sharing some information in the chat with some kind of just new ways of thinking about it, like a balloon pop or a gift card wall, or there's a lot of different ways to kind of do that, especially because it's so popular. And then, like I said, we see autographed memorabilia in the top 4 or 5 of successful categories. So it's interesting to see that maybe the return isn't there. And, again, you're not gonna be able, donors have different preferences. That's true. And when you have 500 people in the room, not all 500 are going to like the same thing. So really tap into your donor interests, see those who are most likely to spend money, what they're interested in spending money on, and really try to curate your opportunities appropriately. And you'll have a lot of success, but definitely have to kind of look back and evaluate and improve.
Absolutely. And I can't reiterate enough, like, being creative and offering your donors more experiences. I previously worked at a nonprofit where we did a selfie scavenger hunt during one of our events, and someone in the chat said that they're in the education field and they're doing an Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader spinoff at one of their events. So thank you, Robin, for that shout out, because we love to see the creativity. We love to see the different ways that you're engaging your donors and bringing them back to those in-person events and making those really impactful memories with your mission, your organization, and your donors. So with that, Kathy, can you take us into some of our final takeaways from the 2022 data?
Absolutely. So, this year already, organizations have raised over $1.3 billion, billion with a B, via GiveSmart. And that comes from about 1.3 million individual donations that were placed. And that comes via donation campaigns, peer-to-peer donors or fundraisers, ticketed events like we've been talking about, distinguished events, paddle raises, all of it. So that 1.3 billion is cumulative of all kind of revenue sources. Over 22 million text messages were sent, which is wild to me. And it shouldn't be, because text messages still have, I think we see a 90% open rate, which far exceeds email, even the best of emails and best of subject lines. So, the fact that that's a strategy that people are using is encouraging, and it's definitely working. We also have talked about, I don't know about much today, but with GiveSmart, both kind of the fundraising side and the event side of our platform, you have the option to turn on recurring giving, have it be automated. And this year already, $32 million has been raised via recurring donations. So it's not pennies, folks. And I think it's encouraging to see, because that number consistently keeps going up. And it's just really, really, really good to see that so many of our partners are giving that a try. And we have quite a few who also do like dedicated recurring giving campaigns. I know we have some messaging templates available on the website to sort of encourage that type of giving. Statistically across the board, recurring donors give more annually. Our lifetime value is higher. Obviously, their return to you, meaning they don't fall off as a donor, so their donor retention is significantly higher, even when their credit card number deactivates, all of the above. So it's just a really, really encouraging thing to see, and we hope to see more of it grow and more people try it. I don't know what, sometimes people I think are hesitant, but we've never had someone say donors were dissatisfied with being asked. So it's worth asking and worth having a plan. And then the GiveSmart community is something that is really great, and it's really wonderful, and it's very user driven here at GiveSmart. And it's hundreds of organizations and folks coming together to idea share, to be a part of exclusive roundtables. They get special emails that just kind of have different campaigns and different examples that we think would resonate with that group, with that high performing group. And they are high performing. They raise 31% more than non-community organizations at GiveSmart. So when you compare the two, and they raise, a decent amount more per campaign. So if you do become a GiveSmart partner, it's customer exclusive. It's something that I think is a huge selling point here and is a great opportunity to learn from folks all over the country who you otherwise wouldn't interact with. And we have a lot of people who've really become really good peer mentors to each other, and it's really nice to see.
Absolutely. We love community. We love all of our community members. So thank you for that call out. And we love to see the success that our GiveSmart partners have had so far in 2022. We still have, today's the 7th, so a handful of days left before the end of the year. And so these numbers will just continue to rise until the end of the year. And especially with those last 2 days of the year being some of the highest giving days of a year. So we'll see how the year finishes out, but really encouraging numbers this year. And we can't say enough about the amazing things that our GiveSmart partners are doing for their missions and their communities. So as I mentioned, we're very quickly approaching the new year. So let's leave 2022 in the rear view and look toward 2023. Richard, can you kick us off?
Yeah, we'll start with some goals. So let's talk about 2023 goals. This was another survey we shot out. So thank you if you're on the call and participated in this one as well. So those that responded to the survey said that 2023 goals will be higher than goals in 2022. Now, a reminder, and keep in mind, looking back at the 2022 goals, only 1/3 met those goals and only 1/3 exceeded those goals. Now, regardless of how that data presents itself to you, whether it's discouraging or encouraging, we would love to see those numbers get higher. And of course, we have all the goodies on GiveSmart.com to help you achieve those goals. But I'm a proponent for setting the bar high for goals, no matter how much that possibly may seem small to you, but it could be huge to somebody else. So always set your bar high, but make sure that your goals are achievable and attainable. So be realistic with your goals, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to shoot higher than where you were before. And then 79% of those who responded said that they do not, or they do plan to increase fundraising initiatives in 2023, including being sure to expand not only via the events, but also year-round fundraising efforts like giving days, recurring giving, and peer-to-peer fundraising, which are all proven to be successful in expanding fundraising. In addition, examine ways to diversify revenue streams to ensure extra income so you can at least reach those 2023 goals. And so there's more to come on revenue streams later.
Absolutely. And thank you. I saw in the chat that someone said our voices might be cutting a little in and out. As I mentioned earlier, we have been having some lagging issues with Zoom today. So we will be sharing the recording after this call. So please just hang tight, sit with us. We're going to keep going. And we'll try to resolve those issues as we go if we can. But Kathy, what about 2023 events? What are people planning for their events? What do these trends look like?
Sure. So as we, look ahead, all of us, it appears as though, and when we, you all kind of shared this too, that more events are on the horizon, and we use the word events, but also campaigns kind of fall into that too. So like an annual giving campaign or something like that would be applicable here. The overwhelming number also are planning for in-person events, but a surprisingly small number are still going to incorporate or plan on incorporating like a hybrid or a virtual component to that, which is surprising to us simply from the perspective of, volatility. But also for years, you've had people who are virtual donors. And so you don't want to turn your back on those folks. And based on, again, what ticket number sales were pretty significantly much higher this year. No surprise. That trend is going to continue as people feel more stable. But as you do your in-person events, with GiveSmart, live streaming is integrated right in there. We have integrations with, Vimeo and YouTube and Facebook. There's a lot of options, and it can all be right on your fundraising page. There's, game opportunities like Madison had mentioned, kind of the selfie scavenger hunt excuse me, that's something that could be done really easy leading up to it. We have a lot of folks who do open their silent auction early. I know some respondents share just a couple hours. We have some folks who do it a couple days, or have items that are available for online bidding only, and then some that are, only opened kind of when the event starts. But regardless, if there's a donor pool that is out there that engaged with you and stood by you virtually, it feels short-sighted to not have any opportunity for them. So think about what that could mean and what that could look like for you. And it doesn't have to mean extra work. It can be including them on things that you're already doing. And I know we have a hybrid event fundraising guide that I believe we're going to be sharing in the chat. So as you look at some hybrid ideas, because maybe it feels like you have to do extra work or two things or whatever that may look like, we just really, really want you to look at it and think about how you can be most effective in that hybrid fundraising plan. About a little over a third of you plan to sell tickets 1 to 2 months in advance. Some go a little bit farther than that, and some go even a little bit further than that. From what we see in general, that sweet spot seems to be around that 60 days plus or minus. So consider that. And as you look at plans, and you might be thinking, oh, Kathy, we did want to do an event, but there's no way we could get up and running for something in October of 2023. You certainly have time and lean on some of those high level volunteers. And it's not like we're asking you or encouraging anyone to do a whole separate gala, right? But to look critically at your donor list and say, like, what could we do that can make an impact, that can keep people engaged, and that could help us kind of stretch our creative muscles a little bit to keep driving revenue. And we've mentioned this before, that kind of the uncertainty about ticket prices. Obviously, everybody, no matter who you are, where you are, has increased pricing on a lot of goods and services. That's happening right now. There's no getting around it. And so, communicating with vendors, communicating, with everybody from people who are your caterers to your auctioneer to any sort of AV, to predict kind of, your contracting, the cost of your event, and evaluating, where you can maybe cut costs, where the highest return is, and, if and when you need to increase prices, and what that communication looks like. It doesn't mean everyone's going to walk away from you. So just really critically take a look. And transparency, I've been mentioning, is really key with donors. If you want to really earnestly try to keep things consistently priced, just make sure you're delivering a similar enough experience. And if you have to raise prices a little, be honest and be very transparent with those numbers. I don't think in general, everyone, again, is feeling it. So I can't imagine that most of your dedicated donor base will be shocked, surprised, or angered.
Absolutely. I think transparency, like you said, is key. And just to keep those communication channels open and see what you can do to be flexible and meet your donors where they can, I think is so important looking towards the new year. And so speaking of, Richard, what kinds of predictions do we have sort of wrapping up the 2023 conversation? What trends are we seeing with nonprofits and with the market?
Yeah, so some 2023 predictions and trends to wrap up. So as we mentioned earlier, we're anticipating more usage of SMS text messages in the new year. They continually have a high open rate and success rate for campaigns. So highest open rate and most messages read within 3 minutes. These make text messaging the most effective marketing channel available to organizations. And GiveSmart offers text messaging for all customers and unlimited campaigns. So you can message your donors anytime, use preset templates to write the messages for you, and even schedule the text for later, which is super handy. Hybrid events will continue in 2023. So we're broken records here, but we really cannot express enough the importance of, one, not returning to pen and paper for components like bid sheets, paddle raises, raffles, ticket sales, and all the other goods. And two, keeping those offsite donors in the loop with your events so they can participate in your events and your mission year round. And even with the return to in-person events, some of your local donors may be wary about large gatherings. So keep those donors in mind and include them in your hybrid plans as well. The e-commerce aspect of donations. So set up early for giving days like Giving Tuesday. just like retailers are pushing out sales from before Black Friday, nonprofits and schools can follow the similar strategy. Makes things a lot easier in the long run. Trust me. We saw that over 200 organizations got a jump start on their 2022 Giving Tuesday fundraising by raising over 600K on their Giving Tuesday sites before Giving Tuesday even started. So yeah, the power of planning and getting started early. So imagine how much more you can raise if you actually start early. We also saw customers use GiveSmart for storefront. GiveSmart customers for storefront campaigns like their own Black Friday auctions and sales, which is a super fun engagement opportunity for donors to support your mission. During the donation, the checkout experience gives prompts to upgrade donors to recurring donors, which is also very important. And I'll probably like, if you ever talk to me about what my favorite feature is on the platform at all, and it's recurring giving, like always prompt your donors to become recurring donors. And so, like I said, with GiveSmart, you can add a recurring giving pop up to your page to encourage a recurring donation. And that's across the board. Do that every single time. If you have a form, make sure that tick box is ticked to allow to have that prompt every single time somebody donates. And it also helps you retarget those that visit your donate page, but didn't donate. So kind of like that abandoned cart feature. And this could be through email, paid social, or other avenues. Digital wallets. So alternative payments are a trend to allow, or trend to follow, excuse me, because they give donors a very valuable sense of security when donating. Options like Google Pay and Apple Pay not only make checkout easier and faster, it makes your donors feel more secure in their contributions. GiveSmart offers alternative payments options to all donors. Diversifying ways for people to give also. So give your donors multiple ways to contribute to your organization year round. This can include text to donate, recurring giving, giving days, merchandise purchases, charitable stock, and more. Also, not sure if you knew this, but charitable stock gifting represents a massive untapped source of funding for nonprofits. More than half of U.S. households own stock and investments outweigh cash holdings 8 to 10 times for donors over 45. So stock gifts represent larger pre-tax gifts for nonprofits, along with unmatched tax benefits for donors. GiveSmart and Donate Stock have partnered to help nonprofits unlock stock gifting. We've partnered with Donate Stocks for a $500,000 match opportunity. So take advantage of this for the year end. A link will be shared in the chat for more details. One last thing, so donor experience and donor management. We are seeing more and more organizations focus on the importance of the donor experience when evaluating platforms, and rightfully so, as you should. A positive donor experience is essential for attaining and retaining donors. So be sure all donor experiences from start to finish are easy, seamless, and quick when all possible. In addition, ensure you're using your platforms to provide donor information to you so that you can manage that data accordingly. And more organizations are using donor data to segment donors into lists and target those lists for events, donations, and more. I can't stress this enough. This is something that I think across the board in every organization, whether you're for-profit or nonprofit, but segmenting your audiences accordingly will make a huge difference in the success. So be sure to always be doing that, regardless if you have a donor management tool. Do your best to do that at all times, and you will see a magnificent difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some really, really great call outs and really exciting opportunity for GiveSmart partnering with Donate Stock. So please go to that link in the chat and check that out. It's a really cool opportunity. But we're just going to take a quick pause here, let Kathy and Richard take a drink of water, take a breather, and we are going to start that second poll. Basically, if you would like to learn more about GiveSmart, please let us know. We could give you a personalized tour of the platform if you've never seen sort of the back end of GiveSmart and what it looks like for you and for your donors. We can give you more information about plans and pricing, whatever you need. We're here to help your organization grow. We are also offering $1,000 off of any donor CRM bundle for new agreements. So here, this poll should be getting started here soon. Again, we're having a little bit of a lagging issue, but the offer expires December 31st for that donor CRM bundle. So please let us know in the poll if you would like more information about GiveSmart and how you can take advantage of this deal while it lasts, because it's really exciting. And I can't stress enough how great a CRM tool is for your donor management and retaining your donors, thanking your donors, and everything like that. So as a reminder, and in case you missed it too, we are recording today's call. We will be sending it out in an email to all of you within the next 24 hours or so. That will include the recording as well as the resources that we're sharing during the call. So no worries there if you're not able to save all of the links that we're sharing, because we know there's quite a few of them. But thank you to everyone who participated in the poll, and we will keep going with our last section. So Kathy, can you now take us into some additional insights we gained from the survey? So we've done 2022, we've looked towards 2023, and now we have some separate data that we want to dive into. And I think first we have insight into how organizations are using platforms.
Yes. So platform duplication, talk about inefficient, right? So the overwhelming majority are using multiple platforms to collect donations year round, and that's outside of event fundraising. So we're talking, a recurring giving or a membership program. To us, they're kind of hand in hand. Text to donate for your annual fund, for your Giving Tuesday, anything like that. And it's mind blowing to me that anybody would fall kind of into that 2 to 8 number, but it's where the vast majority fall of those who said yes, which is a high majority. So we definitely, it's important to make sure that you are capitalizing on all the revenue opportunities that are available to you, and that the return is there. So we love seeing organizations do that, but more isn't always better. Some platforms don't give you donor data when they give you the amount that was raised. So some have hidden fees that hit you after the fact. Some platforms' fee structures are so inconsistent that you don't really know what you're going to pay until you've paid it. And there are some platforms out there who say that they're free, but they penalize you with fees if you fundraise too much, too little, or not at all. You have to pay a separate merchant account fee. It gets very hairy. So just an important thing to do at this time of year, I think we all do, I do it in my personal life, I'm sure people do it professionally, you definitely should, is evaluate what you have and what contracts you have, because not only is it a little mind-boggling to me that people use 2 to 8 ways to take in money, but that's 2 to 8 passwords, 2 to 8 people that you're talking to, support teams, contracts that your legal team needs to review, 2 to 8 payments that are probably on 2 to 8 different payment timelines. It can get really hairy and really hard, and there's probably a significant amount of duplication. So just take a look, see what you have available to you, and see what you can get out of them. And GiveSmart offers kind of all of this and more when it comes to donations. So we do the credit card processing, the recurring giving. You can make fees optional to donors. We're transparent in the way that we contract. So we don't charge you if you don't use the platform during a month. To me, that's mind-boggling, but there's lots of platforms out there that do that. Any sort of contracting or processing payments, processing fees are set up front and they don't fluctuate. And they're the same for everybody. So depending on the plan that you pick and all of that. So it's just really, really, really important to take a look at that, because sometimes things feel like they're good on the surface, and then after a while you realize that you're paying way more than you thought you would. And consolidating platform saves you money and a lot of time. And it is an improved experience for your donors, because if someone is giving to you 3 different ways, they're also having 3 different experiences, and maybe 1 or 2 of them aren't great. So streamlining everything into one source improves the donor experience and improves the experience of your staff and volunteers. And GiveSmart has support that's awake and available when you need it. So you can actually get somebody to talk to morning, noon, and night. So you have the tools that you need to be successful from day one. Not everybody does that. There are some very popular platforms out there that don't have weekend support, which is mind-boggling because many events happen on weekends. So if you need to troubleshoot a setup or to troubleshoot something, there's no one in their organization who can help you. So just make sure to ask those questions as you evaluate, as you look to buy, as you look to, partner, because some of that stuff just sneaks up on you.
Absolutely. Those are really great call outs. And I agree that it's, the more you can streamline your experience for your donors, the easier you can make it, the faster you can make it, the happier your donors will be, the better experience they have, and the more that they'll stick around. And we know that recurring donors, coming back year after year, those veteran donors, they tend to give more. So really, really important to keep that donor experience in mind with your platforms. And so that leads us right into our next topic, Richard, which is donor tracking, donor information. What kinds of trends and data did we see from organizations on this topic?
Yeah. So in this survey, that's like the third one I've done, I think, but it's good because we love surveys. It gives us a lot of good information, gives you the good information. So that's all that matters. So we asked organizations about their use of donor management software and donor data. 27% said that they do not currently use a CRM or information management system. And then 32% do not actively segment donor lists and or target specific donor audiences. So good marketing practices include audience segmentation, which I mentioned before. Make it a practice in your organization to build lists based on donor characteristics or demographics, like gift amounts, locations, associations, and more. You can get this down as granular as you'd like, but I recommend it, especially if you're just getting started, try to get it as broad as you can. Like maybe do it your segments, maybe 2 or 3 different segments to keep it easy, but I promise you it makes a world of difference. And I will say that I will die on this hill when I say that. You can then use these lists to better market your fundraising events, donation campaigns, and a lot more. And also 51% do not actively track donor scores and or retention rates. And then 60% do not know their donor retention rate. Did you know 46% is the approximate average donor retention rate in the US? And so by increasing your sticky donor numbers, you don't have to pour as many resources into finding new ones. Especially since repeat donors often give more than first-time givers. So going back to that recurring giving tick prompt on your forms, be sure to do that. And your organization may spend up to 3 times the amount of a first-time giver's donation just to encourage their first donation. So by cutting the work needed for new donor acquisitions, your organization saves money, and that's the name of the game. So for those not using a CRM and assessing options to get away from the Excel spreadsheets and clunky marketing system databases, GiveSmart Donor CRM monitors your donor retention rate for you to help you raise more money with your lowest hanging fruit. I will say, if you utilize Excel spreadsheets, half of me applaud you, because every time I open up Excel, I get a headache and I have a panic attack over it. Because first of all, I don't know how you memorize all the formulas, but if you do, congratulations. But if you don't like Excel spreadsheets, give GiveSmart Donor CRM a try.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, because I reiterate that Excel is not my favorite. It's an amazing tool. Love it, but also sometimes dread it depending on what I have to use it for. But then Kathy, can you wrap us up with a conversation about revenue sources and some of the insights we gained from organizations surrounding their revenue?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, we learned some things about kind of revenue sources in the survey. You can see on the right there, the ranked revenue sources, starting with, obviously annual and large major gifts are at the top, and event fundraising comes in at a close second. I think any seasoned fundraiser will tell you no major donor came to your organization for the first time. I shouldn't say no, but it's unusual for a major donor to come to your organization as a major donor first. So they have interaction with you in one of these other 9 ways. So keep that in mind. In order to get that top position, there has to be some activity and some stewardship from 2 to 9. Grants, no surprise, are also near the top of that list. And we know that they're a large funding source for many of you. So in general, over the last few years, we've seen an incredible amount of resiliency from organizations across the US. I mean, resiliency is the name of the game for sure. All of you have definitely done it. You're in the trenches. It's hard. But something that stood out to us consistently over these past few years, and where I think most of us at GiveSmart would put a dividing line between those who have continually found success and those who have felt more unstable, is the adaptability, flexibility, and creativity of the organization and the people within it. So those who decided to get creative, to try something new, to add a new revenue streams, to try a new campaign, to diversify giving options, we're the most successful despite all of those fluctuations and uncertainty. So we do have a few other things that we're going to share as we wrap up in the chat, an infographic and another webinar recording so that you have the tools to best assess your organization's revenue streams. We know that our listeners today, those of you who joined us, thank you for taking some of your dedicated, valued time and spending it with us. Are different sizes all over the US from all sorts of different industries. And so everyone's kind of toolkit is a little different. So hopefully what we've shared today, hopefully the resources that we have today can help all of you feel a little bit more stable, because the more options you have, the more resilient you'll be. And we all know that, resiliency is the name of the game because your mission matters. So we're just really excited to see where all of you go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't stress enough that the webinar recording that we shared on revenue ideas, it was a fantastic webinar. We partnered with Nonprofit Makeover, and it's full of great ideas for nonprofits, organizations, schools, associations of all sizes across the US. So please take a look at that. It is a really, really beneficial recording. And if I was still working for a nonprofit, that would be something that I would keep revisiting for sure. So thank you both. Thank you, Richard and Kathy. We've covered a lot in a short amount of time, but we do have a few minutes to dive into our Q&A. So we'll get to as many questions as we can. We have a few that have come in through the webinar today. So I will go ahead with question number 1. Do you have data on how much money game opportunities like raffles raise, or which type of organizations engaged in them successfully? One thing I will say, just to start us off, is that in the next couple of weeks, be on the lookout for GiveSmart's 2022 impact report. We will have data on this topic and even more as sort of a wrap up from 2022. So keep an eye out for that. But Kathy or Richard, any insight into trends on games, on raffles, anything like that you have seen in your experience for the types of organizations running these, or even just some success stories that we could share?
Yeah, the impact report is coming out. There is one from that was written at the end of 2021 that looked back on 2021. So if you want to get some old information or some maybe you can take a look there just to give a baseline, because it's hard, right? If you've never done gamification or a raffle with your organization, it's hard to judge what percentage of revenue it's going to bring in terms of the total for your night. What I will say generally is that, if you had 17 activities, no, it would not be successful and your return wouldn't be there. But adding in some revenue, raffle, gamification increases donations overall because it gives people another opportunity to give. So take that with a grain of salt. You know your audience best, but we wouldn't recommend it if we didn't see people consistently having success. Especially, I know we shared a ton of ideas today. There's a lot that I think are easy to do, and can be impactful. So I know that's like a very generic answer, but we will have like actual data from overall what is doing well. But raffles absolutely hands down outperform the rest. I think they're also the most used.
Yeah, absolutely. And another really great question: how did 2022 goals numbers relate to previous years? And Kathy, I know you worked on last year's impact report as well. So what insight do you have on how goals have compared year over year?
Yeah, well, what remains the same, because I don't want to speak out of turn, but what remains the same is that no matter how you performed, your goals go up. And I laugh because we did a research report last year, we did the impact report last year, and then the impact report and survey this year. And that's consistent. If there's one thing that's consistent, it's that, and that's my experience too from my previous life at a nonprofit. So that remains true. And I would say overall, I don't want to speak out of turn. I think, however, it shook out last year, kind of looking at 2021. I don't remember being as surprised as I was this time. So I think in general, it was, a little bit more kind of met or exceeded than not. But that's kind of how it shook out this time too. So yeah, what definitely stands the test of time is that goals are going to be going up no matter
Yeah.
what. So I think with that on the horizon and that being the way it's been forever, you know, organizations that do have success, I think, realize that and say, okay, what can we do to impact what's happening in our fundraising campaigns and events so that, you know, we have the greatest return we can have. And that's how everyone should really be looking.
Absolutely. I think those are really, really great call outs. And we also did earlier this year, we did a really deep research study with another organization. And from that data, we also saw that goals continually rise despite the technology tools that you're using, despite what types of campaigns you're running. Like no matter what it was, as Kathy said, goals continue to rise. So make sure that you are diversifying what you're doing to be able to meet those goals. Because we know that from 2020 to 2021 and then 21 to 22 and now 22 to 23, those goals are continually going up year over year. And we've seen that. So that was a really great question. Thank you for asking that. And another question, I guess this could go for either of you. Someone asked, they're sort of just relaunching after 3 years of being down and it's sort of like starting from scratch. So do we have any advice on sort of a starter path or any advice on how to get restarted, maybe with your marketing, your fundraising, reaching back out to your donors? Any tips or tricks that we could share with this person?
I'll start off in which of course, I think you can guess what I'm going to start with. It's going to be donor segmentation.
Yeah.
And so especially if you're relaunching it and you're basically like creating a new groundwork for it. Yeah, just make sure you know who your audience is. And they change all the time. There's this old saying in like the marketing realm of just like, yeah, like people change or not, it's not. People don't change, but strategies changes. And it's like, that's not true. People change every single day, their decisions, their buying decisions, their interests, those types of things. So people change every single day. And that there is no exception for someone that is engaged in the nonprofit realm as well. So when you are engaging with your donors, whether you haven't engaged with them in 3 years or not, be sure to just re-engage with them. Basically the kind of the same thing that you would do, just like I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. I guess you could just send them basically start with an email. Like you want to get them re-engaged with your org and make sure that they're still interested. Number one. Number two, if you're confident in where your audience stands now, just still try to segment out. So especially like, what are their interests? What do they like the most? So if they were more on the game side, or if they wanted to come to an event, or if they, liked raffles the most. So that's just kind of where you start. So just start with your audience, like your donor base existing, like what you had 3 years ago. Hopefully you still have that information. And if you start there, it's a lot of it is uphill battles. But once you understand your audience and you have them segmented out where you need them to be, it's a lot easier getting back in touch with those people versus trying to find a whole new database.
Yeah, and I would say too, donor segmentation, absolutely, definitely acknowledge it. I mean, I don't pretend like, it's been status quo for the past 3 years. Say we've missed you. A lot of that sort of language. Share what you've been up to. Share what has been happening at your organization. Do a lot of, really invest some time and energy into storytelling, and also take a page out of this webinar's book and do a survey. Ask what people want to see, because to Richard's point, people do change. And priority. I mean, when I think about who I was, before, like priorities change, and so as you look ahead, maybe people do want virtual options. Maybe they do want to be able to participate from home. Maybe they are really excited to get back in person. Maybe they really loved something that you did and they hope that you bring it back or whatever. But do that. And when you get people who start to talk to you and engage with you in any capacity, whether it's through giving or through survey responses, you might find yourself being able to do a lot less guesswork and a lot more, thoughtful strategic planning.
Absolutely. Those are really great responses, and hopefully that gives you a good jumping off point for getting started again. And we're all here to help you and support you. So please let us know if we can be a resource in any other way. Feel free to reach out to us anytime as you jump back in and get started again. But with that, we will go ahead and wrap up for today. Please use the end of webinar survey that you'll see here in just a minute to share your feedback with us, and request contact again if you didn't earlier in the poll, or if you want to learn more. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you to Richard and Kathy for your time and for extending your expertise to all of us. Thank you everyone for your fantastic engagement and questions. And we will see you all next time. Thank you so much.